Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. Soulstice is a brand new hack and slash action adventure available on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S.
I'm not done yet.
We're going to take a look at all the major features of the game so you know what you can expect if you decide to play it. I'm going to explain how some important mechanics work along with some basic tips to get you started. This is a sponsored video by Modus Games, so big thanks to them for reaching out to me. But let's not waste a lot of time on the intro and start talking about the game.
There's more.
When it comes to the story, the balance of the Holy Kingdom of Chaos is compromised when powerful feral creatures, known as wraiths, invade from the other side of the veil, threatening to consume the living. These wraiths corrupt their victims and possess their bodies, turning them into unstoppable monsters that prey upon the common folk. The game basically has two protagonists that you get to control, Briar and Lute. Briar is a hybrid warrior, born of the union of two souls, and you get to control both of them simultaneously. These hybrid warriors are known as chimeras. Briar and Lute are two sisters, and pretty much all gameplay mechanics are related to their unique set of skills. Soulstice has a ton of action sequences, but also a lot of platforming as well. You'll have to use abilities from both of these characters in and out of combat. There's also a big emphasis on combining their abilities in combat for maximum effects. The combat in Soulstice is pretty fast-paced, and it might seem kinda easy at first, but it quickly becomes quite challenging. And while Soulstice definitely requires some muscle memory and skill play, knowing what to use in combat is a lot more important. It's all about learning what abilities and weapons to use on different enemies, so it's kinda situational. For example, you use Lute's abilities to parry enemies' attacks, and there are a couple of different types of parries that you'll get to learn throughout the game. You start the game with a greatsword and a warhammer. The greatsword is more fast-paced, and it works great against the majority of regular types of enemies. You'll get to unlock different combos as you progress through the game, and they are very powerful if you manage to pull them off. One of them is the ability to juggle enemies in the air, and it never gets boring. But some enemies have high poise meter, which makes them immune to this move. And speaking of that, you can see the health and the poise meter by just locking onto a target. This is also pretty important because of the camera angles. When you lock on, the camera will obviously focus on the locked on enemy, giving your camera a more focused angle. This can make your life a lot easier in pretty much all fights. And changing targets is pretty easy while being locked on, so there is no reason to not use this mechanic. Speaking of special enemies with high poise meters, this is where your warhammer becomes very effective. The heavy hits from the warhammer are very effective against bigger enemies, and as you play the game you'll have to figure out which weapon is more effective in different situations. So it's not all about hacking and slashing all over the place. The game becomes a lot more challenging if you don't use the right weapon. The whole progression system is actually quite simple. You need to collect these red shards and visit the observer to upgrade Briar's weapons and Lute's abilities. These red shards can be found by killing enemies, breaking boxes, and they're pretty much all over the place. You just need to explore the map. Speaking about the progression system, weapons and abilities can be refunded without any penalties. So you can try to experiment to see what works the best with your playstyle. Like I said before, you're going to do a lot of platforming while exploring the map. You'll have to use some special Lute's abilities for different platforming sections. The most noteworthy abilities are the evocation and banishment fields, which you'll need to use quite often in order to progress. Not just in platforming sections, there are some enemies like the wraiths, which are basically immune to your attacks unless you activate the evocation field. I really like the platforming sections where you get to utilize this ability, and the difficulty of these puzzles become progressively harder and more fun if you ask me. When it comes to some other notable features, you'll find these challenge portals on the map, which live up to their name. It's basically a horde mode, which give you some useful items if you manage to complete it. These portals can be quite challenging, and they will definitely put your combat skills to the test. But if you fail, you can easily restart the event. Speaking of restarting, you can do the same for each chapter in the game if you wish to get a better score. I'm going to leave you with some interesting gameplay for the rest of the video. Be sure to use my link in the description if you decide to try out Soulstice. Once again, big thanks to Modus Games for sponsoring the video.
more. I've got more. I'm not done yet. I will take care of it. I'm fading away.
Check out Soulstice by visiting the link in the description. Don't forget to subscribe for more RPG contents. If you want to support the channel in the long run, consider becoming a Patreon or a YouTube member. You can get your name on the end credits, as well as some other perks like early access to videos, Discord roles, my plans for future content, etc, etc. That will be all, and I'll see you in the next one.